Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to give you some comments on my IELTS line graph description. We're going to look at its structure, vocabulary and grammar. And we are starting with the structure. As you can see, we have 4 paragraphs here. So in the first paragraph we have a short introduction for our description. And basically we just rewrite this sentence here in the task. So let's look at some changes that I made in this sentence. So for example, I changed shows into illustrates. This noun phrase average carbon dioxide emissions into a clause with how much carbon dioxide was emitted. So then average became on average. I also used an alternative spelling or way of writing of the United Kingdom, and I changed between and into from to. So as you see, I didn't change every single word, but the sentence still looks pretty different. Okay, so that was our introduction. Now moving on to paragraph number 2. The second paragraph is about our main features in the graph. So as you see in the second paragraph, we don't have precise figures, and we only talk about changes or trends in general. So first I wrote about the leader here. It was the United Kingdom, as you see. Then I wrote that its trend was downward, and I combined it with the second country who had a downward trend. It was Sweden. So look here. So Britain, whose emissions dropped along with those of Sweden, which means like together with the emissions of Sweden. And by contrast, we have 2 countries, Italy and Portugal, whose emissions increased. So this is our last main features. So we must note that we have 2 types of main features, ratings and trends. So rating is about the leaders, the second largest things, and trends are changes. And as you see, I have noted all of them. Now in the next 2 paragraphs we have precise information, which means we include a lot of figures here. Let's look, we have figures here and here, 9/10, 5.5, 1 ton, 7.5, just over 5. So we have a lot of figures in the main body paragraphs where we give precise information. So let's call it precise. Okay, now let's look more closely. So here we had 4 lines in the graph, and I wrote one paragraph about two countries, the United Kingdom and Sweden, and the other paragraph about the remaining two countries. So note that they are combined into paragraphs on the basis of their trends. So the first one is about those with downward trends, and the second, the last paragraph in this description is about the countries that had a rising trend. Now look what exactly is written in each body paragraph. So here we have the description of trends for the United Kingdom. So we have a specific figure for the beginning, 11 tons. We have when it was. Then we have descriptions of changes, fell gradually, and having decreased by 2 tons. So we have specific description of changes that happened within the period. Then we have the same thing for Sweden. So we have the initial growth, like at the beginning there was a growth. Again, numbers. Then it was followed by a considerable decline. So the change on the next interval. So again, we have a number at the end of the time frame. So in the body part of our report, we divide the whole period into parts and describe them more specifically. Now let's look at the last paragraph. So we have Portugal and Italy here. So again, we have specific numbers, and we have a very important thing here, a contrast. So the former, Portugal, dumped slightly over 1 ton, and the latter an approximately fourfold amount. So we contrast their amounts. We say that there it was 1 ton, and in Italy it was a fourfold amount. It means 4 tons. Okay, then we have comparison with both of them, so they had the same story. So we have specific description of changes rose fast until 1999, 1997. And again, we divide periods and say after which they were almost stable. So now let's move on to looking at grammar and vocabulary specifically. So let's look what we've got. So I will just highlight some useful words for writing task 1. So we have illustrate here, emitted instead of emissions, on average from 2, which is simple, but you have to be able to paraphrase between and. So next we have consistently, which means all the time without change. So it was the leader among these countries all the time. Along with, maybe helpful, it's like together with. So next we have by contrast. And more specifically is a good way to start your body paragraphs. Followed by is a good one. So it can be like here when you divide your period into intervals and say that some initial growth was present and then it was followed by a considerable decline or something like that. Or you can write it somewhere here like followed by, and write the second most the second largest category. Here it would be Sweden. Yeah, so followed by Sweden, for example. Okay, so let's look further. So here we have the time frame. This is a way to call this whole period. Turning to is a good one. Moving on to the next category. So dumped instead of emitted. So here we have the former, the latter. It's when you have two categories mentioned before and then you want to refer to them in order. So the former is Portugal here and the latter Italy. Okay, so then approximately fourfold amount, everything is useful. So approximately when we don't know the exact number, fourfold means multiplied by 4, and amount is just like quantity. So next, reaching, like moving upwards and reaching 7.5 tons, just over, to say that it grew more than, to reach more than 5 tons, but not a lot more. And stable is also useful. Now let's look again at the whole text and pay attention to words which are related to increasing and decreasing trends. So here we have dropped, increased, fell gradually, decreased the initial growth, so a considerable decline, have similar upward patterns, rose fast. So as you can see here, I wrote all these verbs and nouns different. I mean, I didn't repeat dropped and dropped or increased and increased all the time. So this is what you have to do to achieve a good band score. So that's it for today's analysis of this answer. So if you have any questions, you can just write them in the comments. So yeah, take care.